Truth is the thing that matters. So if you feel hurt by me telling you the truth, well, you go home and feel hurt and cry.
Okay. Ever thought you're sometimes going through the motion? Gary and I have both been there. And that's why we created the East-West Coaching Podcast.
Welcome to Anna and Gary's East-West Coaching.
I'm Anna, and joining me is Gary. We are here to chat about life, love, and everything in between. Whether you're feeling stuck, frustrated, or just looking for a little more spark in your life, we got you covered. Let's dive in.
What I hear a lot of, a kind of a phrase that's become quite popular is, I don't care about your feelings. It's facts that matter.
Wow, who says that?
Oh, good. Quite. When people want to express what they think, they want to give you their opinion. You know, I don't care about how you feel. If the truth hurts, that's tough. Truth is the thing that matters. So if you feel hurt by me telling you the truth, well, you go home and feel hurt and cry.
Okay. That's a nice person.
So where do feelings come when somebody thinks they're talking about truth? Do the two coincide? Do feelings matter when somebody's being truthful? Or what's going on there, do you think?
Let's start by saying sometimes people wonder what the difference is between emotions and feelings. And they think maybe they're the same thing or they're confused. And I think you will correct me if I'm wrong. Emotions is like we intend. Emotion it's in your body. So the bodily sensation that you feel in your body when you have an emotion, and that biologically only lasts 90 seconds. Right? After that, it becomes feeling. So after that, if that sensation lasts longer than 90 seconds, it means you are already thinking about this feeling. You're already thinking about this. The thoughts come in and it becomes a feeling then. But you think you say biological, right? The biological, physical thing, the emotion, only lasts 90 seconds.
So an event happens and you feel something in your body, you're saying, and that initial feeling lasts about 90 seconds, a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And then what happens after that?
Well, after that, it means that you get entangled in your thoughts because you give a meaning to that emotion, to that feeling. You start building a story about it, and you basically give it power, let's say.
Okay, that's an interesting distinction.
You might know it in a different way or explain it in a different way.
Well, I don't know. I'm interested in exploring what you just said. So we have an event that happens and we have some kind of internal reaction to it. Where does that internal reaction come from? What with that emotion? Why is that generated?
So, well, first of all, because we're humans. And second, many times the emotion you're living in the present is because something from the past is triggering you. So it's like it's a memory of the first time you felt that emotion, even if it's unconscious, you don't realize that. You think maybe that emotion is caused by that situation in the moment, but it could be from the past. For example, I can give you an example. I remember when my daughter was growing up, right? And I would ask her to, wash the dishes, Nicole. And she'd say, yeah, mom. Yeah, mom. Now I'm gonna do it, mom. Now I'm gonna do it, mom. And then she wouldn't. And then I would say again. And then, I would get really upset inside, thinking, why isn't she listening to me? And this to me is like not respecting me and not listening to me, and she doesn't care, and all this stuff, all these stories that came to my mind. And then working on it, I realized that it wasn't actually because of the dishes or because she wasn't doing it. I mean, I might have been a bit annoyed, right? Obviously, you think, come on, help me out or whatever. But I realized that it was actually from my past, when it's got nothing to do with my daughter, but it was instead with my dad. I don't know. I can't remember how I connected it to my dad, but it was like, when someone doesn't listen to me, doesn't give me the attention or stuff like that, to me that is, it means they don't respect me, they don't hear me, they don't see me, sort of thing. So that was really enlightening. It was, actually, it's not because of the dishes, it's because of the stories and of the old feelings I had stored in my body, of the meaning that when someone doesn't do maybe straight away what I ask, that is disrespectful, right? And at the same time, this is it. Like, it was the same with my father. If he asked you to do something, you had to do it immediately. You didn't have time to, later I'll do it. No, with him it's always like, I'm asking you something, do it now. Otherwise he will get angry. Because to him it was disrespectful.
So that feeling is not generated from the outside event, it's generated because of the thoughts that you have about the event. And the thoughts could be something that's long-standing, that you link to it, that you, I think we use the word triggered, you're triggered by, and that's not disrespectful. I just use that we have triggers in our lives, and that sets something up automatically, and we don't always know why we feel a certain way, because we don't have that time to think. We just feel it. But actually, it has been set off by a thought.
Yeah, but it's so quick, and sometimes you don't know what your triggers are. You don't know what your little traumas or memories are, right? Unless you start working on it and becoming aware of what the meaning might be behind that emotion or that feeling. It happens also quickly. So
I first came across this idea of things happening in our brain at different time sequences. Steve Peters wrote a book called The Chimp Paradox, and his model of the brain is in 3 sections. It's far more complicated than that. But he says that there's a chimp brain, which is where the name of the book comes from, which is the amygdala, and that's where all the feelings are stored. Or it's our base reactions. It's to do with reactions to sex and to fear and to hunger, to protection. And then there's the prefrontal cortex, which is the very rational side. It's the things that it's the part of the brain that thinks things through clearly. He said the problem is that the chimp side reacts far quicker than the human side, the prefrontal cortex. Mm. And so we get all these feelings, and that we identify very quickly, and often we react because of them, because the prefrontal cortex, the human side, is a lot slower at processing. Mm. The third part of the brain he calls the computer, and that stores everything that we've ever experienced, or our childhood, when we notice things on the street. It's all stored up there. We hardly ever access it, but it can be accessed very quickly. So if an event happens, the computer goes, "Whoa, yeah, look at that," and the chimp then reacts to that memory. And so if somebody hurts you and you thump them, and you go, "Oh, I shouldn't have thumped them," it's because that chain of events. By the time that person is lying on the floor and you're staring at them because you've just laid them out on the street, the human's gone, "You probably shouldn't have done that, That wasn't the cleverest thing to do." And I quite like this model because it's very easy for me to follow. But it's to do with that kind of emotional response. Mm. And lots of people go through their lives reacting to everything. And go, "Oh, that's just how I am." Because they're not allowing the other part of their brain to reflect and to change things. Yeah. So my question then, Anna, is, are feelings bad? Should we ignore feelings?
No, absolutely not. If you ignore feelings, it's going to be worse. If you deny them, suppress them, they're either going to come out, in the long run, if they're really strong feelings, or they're caused by past traumas or whatever. Sometimes they can come out as illnesses in your body. And ignoring feelings is just it's not good, because they are valid. There is a reason why you're feeling that.
So tell me, what are the good reasons for having feelings and listening to our feelings?
What is the good what?
Yeah. Say that again. What's the good reason for listening to our feelings, rather than going, "What's the truth?" Well, let me tell you the truth. And you go, "Oh no, let me tell you how I feel." Well, why would you listen to your feelings?
Well, I would listen to my feelings to understand if it could be a valid feeling, or if it could be something maybe I'm overreacting on. But to generally, get to know yourself and validate yourself, because every part of you has a reason for.
So let me stop you. I want to ask you a bit more about that. When you say validate yourself, what do you mean by that?
Well, if you don't listen to your feelings, it's like that person that says to you, "I don't care about your feelings. What are the facts?" Which you can get to that. But still, that part of you that had that feeling is trying to tell you something.
So give me an example. What could the feeling let me rephrase that. What could the feeling be trying to tell you?
It's trying to tell you something that you might need to understand to heal, to move forward, to improve. But if you don't listen to them, you dismiss them or you avoid them, how can you move forward and change and heal?
I was talking to somebody today. An event had happened, and they said the way I'm going to get through this is I'm going to ignore how I feel about it. I'm just going to go on stoically, just do my job, get through it. Because if I pay attention to my feelings, then I'm going to lose control. I'm not going to be responsible for what I do. How are feelings useful there?
Oh, you go for it. Okay. How are feelings useful?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you might think that in the moment, if you say, I'm going to ignore my feelings, I think a better way of saying it is, instead of reacting in the moment, instead of maybe shouting at this person in the moment, how can I respond? And also, if you're in the middle of a situation and you need to, keep calm or whatever, it doesn't mean that you're ignoring your feelings. You're just responding in a different way. So you give yourself those minutes, those few seconds to just breathe deeply, count to 10, and then if you can do it, respond in an appropriate way. Afterwards, though, it would be good to sit down a minute and think, okay, why did I get so upset about this? What's behind there? Why did this hurt me so much? And maybe you connect it to some past experiences that you had, because as you know, our brain and let's say our body, they file everything in a generalized way. I mean, you might not remember every single experience that you had in your life or memory until afterwards, maybe, if you think about it. But instead of, I'm going to ignore my feelings, maybe you say that because you don't want to react. But you don't have to. You can respond instead of reacting. And still validating your feelings. Like if someone is disrespectful to you, you might choose not to shout back at them, but maybe just respond and say, I would really appreciate it when you talk to me if you don't raise your voice or if you don't insult me. So there is a valid feeling there,
So
yeah.
So you're saying that feelings themselves are an indication of something else. So when you have a feeling of either joy or anger or guilt or frustration, that is trying to highlight to you something beyond that. And we don't always know at the time, do we? We have these immediate responses, whatever it may be. And if we don't pay attention to it, we'll either bottle it up, do something, or maybe do something stupid because we're reacting rather than responding, like you said. However, if we pay attention to it, then we can go a little bit deeper and work out what it is that's really bothering us.
Hey everyone, before we get back to our chat, I wanted to give you a quick shout out to where you can find us, as well as more resources and articles. You can find out more about Gary at www.thinkwellnow.net, and you can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Anna Amoroso. We will include all the links in the video description below. Please consider liking and subscribing to this channel to help us in reaching more people who might value this type of content, and click the bell to get news of our latest podcast. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
It's one of the things in meditation, isn't it? Is that they say when you're meditating, you will feel lots of different things, and not to judge it. We're not judging the feelings. We're just going, okay, I'm noticing this. What else am I noticing when I notice it? And then you can then begin to deal with that. So it could be that you realize that you've been disrespected, but at the time you don't know why you reacted in that way. But then on reflection, you go, that's because they didn't listen to me. If I'm reacting that way, I need perhaps to go and say, "I don't. You listen to me. I need you to do this for me. I need you to listen. I need to tell you." And so then you can adapt your behavior in response to what the feeling has been telling you is the problem. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it also helps you to take ownership of yourself, take on your own responsibility, because sometimes you react to situations, not talking about the extreme experiences like when someone is really nasty or disrespectful, but in normal life there might be something that you're reacting to, and it's just stories that you have in your subconscious about that. But it might not mean that. Like when people, for example, blame everything on everyone else. Oh, it's your fault because you do this and you do that and you do that. But if you understand yourself and understand the reason why you feel that way in that moment, it could be that you are experiencing your own reality, and that situation doesn't necessarily mean the meaning that you gave to that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the reality is only reality to us because of, like you say, the meanings that we attribute to anything. We can both be in the same situation, experience the same event, and yet it can be very different. The reality can be different because we are assigning it different meanings, because we have different backgrounds. So if I go to Italy and I hear somebody shouting, it could be that I might stand back and say, "Oh gosh, that looks a bit worrying." And you go, "Oh no, that's just how Italians express themselves. They're not angry with each other. They're just having a friendly conversation."
Yeah, it's very, very subjective to each one of us. We all have our own world inside, and we're all different in that way. So, yeah, it's also good never to take for granted something, If something means one thing to you, as you say, it might mean a completely different thing to someone else. It depends how you've been raised. It depends on your childhood experiences. It depends on so many things. So but once you understand that, you also understand, not to judge people so quickly. Once you understand yourself, you have compassion for yourself, you try and know yourself better, you also understand, well, if I'm like this, everyone else is like that. So, don't judge them, because you don't know what they've been through, you don't know what they're childhood was like, how they were raised, what traumas they went through, tribulations, whatever.
I think that's something really good to talk about. And maybe we can do that in another podcast about what it means to be compassionate to ourselves and about not judging. I think that would be a really good conversation that I'd love to have with you. Before we finish, I want to go back to something that you said very early on in our talk today. And you said something about if we don't acknowledge our emotions, it will have physical effects. They're not the exact words you said. Do you want to say a little bit more about that?
But, there is a book called The Body Keeps the Score. So I think they have, evidence of that. That if you don't work with with your feelings, with your emotions, with your past traumas, because past traumas have given you some feelings and some emotions at the time, and if you keep suppressing or avoiding, or maybe you don't understand why you are that way, or why you behave in a certain way to people, instead of maybe, let's say, telling your truth, you keep avoiding conflict, you're a people pleaser, and maybe you want to, but you just don't. It's like you can't. That might come up later on in your body in some way. Could it be that you might get a tumor in your throat?
Yes, I mean there appears to be a very strong link between feelings and what happens in our body and various illnesses. So there was Bessel van der Kolk who wrote the book that you mentioned, and also Gabor Mate has wrote several books. These are both, I believe they're both doctors, and they both talk extensively about their research into how when we don't express ourselves, or when society stops us being the people we need to be, then actually that has a massive effect on how our body responds. Really interesting books. I think Gabor Mate's latest book is the Myth of Normal. I think that's the short title, The Myth of Normal. But again, it talks about how trauma and illness kind of go together, and anxiety as well. How that just has this effect on our health.
Anxiety also is. There is something there. There is some feelings there. Maybe they are not listened to. There is a meaning to why you feel in a certain way.
Anybody who's interested in this, I would absolutely recommend that they go and either read the book or follow it with some of the YouTube links, because I know Gabor Mate had done lots of interviews and talked about this. Probably Bessel van der Kolk has also done the same thing. So this episode is shorter than normal because I messed up. And I have pleaded for forgiveness, but Anna is withholding it. I turned up half an hour late, just because I've got the wrong time in my head, because I didn't check my diary. I just assumed that I knew.
Oh,
It wasn't that I'd forgotten. Wouldn't forget.
No worries. They might enjoy a shorter episode. Who knows? Maybe they let us know.
Maybe they'll just put it through at double the speed. Anna, thank you so much for being patient with me and for seriously for coming to join me a little bit, somewhat later than you had anticipated. I really appreciate you, so thank you so much for that.
That's okay, Gary. Don't worry about it.
It
was a pleasure.
Pull up, I got 5 wishes on a Friday. I know y'all different, y'all popping bottles in broad day. So much cameras, I got 'em.